Hi, everybody. Welcome in to the channel here. I'm Jordon Cox. Some of you who are watching may already know who I am. Some of you may not. But here we are. We're going to talk about this past week and weekend of racing that we were able to enjoy. Just a couple of highlights or maybe even some lowlights of what transpired in the world of racing up here in the Northeast, and a couple of top things that I picked out when it came to racing this past week. So let's get into it. Off with the short track Super Series race that was at Bedford this past weekend. We had racing Sunday, practice Saturday, racing Sunday. The short track Super Series went to Bedford for the first time in their history, celebrating Bedford's 90th season, opening up their 90th season as a racetrack. Historic facility out there, really cool to see. That atmosphere, that kind of racetrack, and it's really cool that they opened up to our modifieds to come out there and play a little bit. You had all the top guys. You had Stuart Friesen, you had Billy Pouch Jr., you have Matt Shepard. You have these big names coming out for the short track Super Series to race out there at that speedway. A lot of excitement around it. A lot of people going out there to enjoy the race, and they weren't disappointed. There was no shortage of action throughout the day. There was some highs and lows for certain drivers, and it really came down to the end where guy leading shreds a tire. We are dealt a good old-fashioned green checkered finish between two top drivers that certainly didn't disappoint and didn't come without controversy. So we'll go over that video here and let's talk about it a little bit. We had a race that was pretty calm for the most part. I feel like a lot of guys just minding their P's and Q's, just keeping things straight, running a good solid race. You had Dylan Stoyer, who I'm pretty sure led the entire race up until the very end. You could tell either the tire was going away, or he was just kind of maybe trying to save the car towards the end. But Danny Creed and Danny Buck both catch him towards the end of the race and get close. There is some action there at the end between all the drivers. It looked like Stoyer might be falling into the clutches of Creed in there with a couple laps to go. On the last lap, Dylan Stoyer shreds a left rear tire, ends up in the wall, brings the caution out with one lap to go, and sets up like I said, a green checkered finish between the Danny. It's the Danny and Danny show. Danny Buck threw a slider on Danny Creedon going into the final corners. Creedon makes contact coming out off of turn 4, and like I said, there's some action on the front stretch before victory lane. Danny Buck and his guys thought they were mistreated on the racetrack, so of course there's some action there. Creedon didn't see it that way. He was on the side of Danny Buck's raced me a certain way, so I raced him a certain way. Let me give you my 2 cents on it. When I watched the video, when I watched it that night, live happening, I immediately saw what Danny Creedon did. I saw what Danny Buck did. Danny Buck threw a slider into going into 3. Clear as day, clean as possible. Got underneath him, tried to woe it up on the top so he can make a run, so he can at least try to make a run back to the checkered. Creedon crosses him back over, gets back underneath Danny Buck, and doesn't lift. Just stays in the gas, because here you got 2 drivers going for the win. They're handed an opportunity to get the win. They're going for it. Creedon doesn't lift. Danny doesn't lift. Well, Danny gets his car squared away so he can make the turn off at turn 4 and get down the straightaway, and Creedon is coming up the racetrack whether Buck is there or not. It's as simple as that. Can you call that a racing deal? That's for you to decide. Let me know in the comments section what you think. Some of you are going to see it as a racing deal, and it can be contributed to, well, that's just racing. But for me personally, I don't like the move in the part of you put that guy on the outside in a really bad spot. And you can see in the video, Buck goes up into the fence, and if he hadn't done enough driving at the top there, he may have ended up in the catch fence itself and really tore up a race car, and maybe would have came across the track, or who knows where he would have landed, and maybe collects a bunch of other race cars, because we're right after a restart. Everybody's bunched together. It just simply puts a lot of people in a really bad spot. Would Creedon still have won the race if he had simply rolled out of the throttle a little bit and gave Buck some room on the top? More than likely. The move seems a little unnecessary, but here's my defense of Creedon. He's going for the win. As far as he's concerned, that guy's not in his view anymore. Gas it up and just get to the finish line. I see both drivers' points. Buck's not happy because he gets driven up into the fence. He gets right reared into the fence. Ruins, it could have potentially really ruined his race car and ruined a lot of other people's days. But I see Creedon's side. He's just gassing up and going. What I don't like about Creedon in this situation is in Victory Lane, he had zero remorse for what he had done. He simply just said, well, Danny Buck races me this way, so this is how I'm going to do it. If he had just said, hey, I'm going for a win, he's not there anymore. Oh, well. You know, things happen, it's racing. That would have been a little more acceptable. But he pretty much just said, I saw that red 6 car, and I didn't care what happened to him. That's my only issue with it. And go ahead and hate that take. That's fine. It just is what it is. It's not the greatest move. I don't know if I would stand by it. I mean, I've been in similar situations, and I've given the guy space. But it's a bigger stage, bigger stakes, bigger check. Creedon was hungry for a win. Again, I don't really place blame. I'm just not a huge fan of the Victory Lane reaction, but he'd also just been, you know, kind of ganged up on by Buck and the crew there. So I know, you know, things were kind of hot there, so you can kind of let it go, but let me know what you think, how you saw this incident based on the video that we have at hand. I see Creedon's side. I see Buck's side. If I was Creedon, I won. If I was Buck, I'd be mad too. So let me know what you think. We'll go from there. Local news, I guess, for someone like me. We've got Briggs Danner announcing that he's going to be competing in the USAC Silver Crown National Series when it comes to the asphalt portion of their schedule. So announcing this past week that he's going to be stepping in the vacant ride that was driven by Cody Swanson. Now Briggs Danner gets the opportunity. Allentown, PA, native, pretty close to where we are up here in Jersey. So Briggs has run in the USAC Silver Crown Series a total of 13 times over the past 2 seasons. Got himself a win this past year at the Kansas State Fairgrounds in the Salt Lake City 100. So obviously a bright future for Briggs in so many different types of cars. A lot of the winged and wingless USAC sprint car world. He's really has gotten his name out there and has done a great job doing it. This is just, I feel, another step up into that world and this part of his career. It's definitely a great opportunity, and glad to see Briggs get the opportunity, get the chance to go out and prove even more how great of a driver he is, and put his name out there amongst some of the best when it comes to the sprint car world, the USAC world. The eyes are always on those drivers. Everyone knows who, you know, these guys are, and those Silver Crown races, whether they're on dirt or asphalt, always something to watch. So good luck to Briggs in everything he's doing this year, but obviously this opportunity is going to be a really fun one and a really cool one to watch. back to local racetrack, modified world news up here in the Northeast, Bridgeport Motorsports Park, and a little bit of hot water. The track holding a import car show and got themselves in some trouble. I'm not going to talk too much on things other than what's known as fact, and that's that they held an event that was at the Bridgeport Motorsports Park, which is Bridgeport Speedway for anybody wondering what we're talking about, called Import Expo. There were a lot of people that showed up for this event, which was the cause of most of the problems. I did see pictures of cars lined up down the street. People came from all over, I mean, from states away, as far as Massachusetts and Virginia. The amount of people that showed up supposedly skyrocketed to the 25,000 mark of people, which is just an insane number to think of that many people coming to any kind of car show or car related event. And from where I heard, the people were in that area all the way to the vineyard that's in the area, which also posted, you know, their experience with the whole thing. A lot of people, and there's just bound to be bad things that happened. There were some fights. Some people. There was a few people that that were taken away. There was some individuals that are charged. I mean, as of the press release from the police department, only one person was taken into custody and charged with disorderly conduct, but supposedly there was many others that were potentially involved. But I do want to give the track its due here when Doug released his apology to his neighbors, to the surrounding area, thanked the local police department for their help in dispersing the crowd and getting people out of there and just getting everything taken care of as quickly, as efficiently as possible. It sounds like they did everything that they could once the situation was out of hand to get everything back in order. So, you know, got to give your kudos to Doug and his team and everything they did, and the local Logan Township Police Department for everything they did to disperse everything. It sounds like it was a bad situation, but everyone did what they had to do to make amends. Hopefully the dust settles and everything calms down. I hope the rumors that, you know, I keep hearing aren't true, and nothing further will come from it. And, you know, we can just move on with Bridgeport Speedway, continuing their schedule of things that they have going on here into the late spring and into the summer and for the rest of the year, because the last thing, coming from a guy here in New Jersey, the last thing we need is to lose the only other dirt track we have in the state to anything crazy. So sounds like they have things handled, and we'll move on. So that's it for this first video. I'm not sure how it went. But yeah, appreciate anybody who is watching and wants to you know, support the channel. Hit the subscribe button wherever you're at. Follow along on all the social medias if you're watching this somewhere on social media. But yeah, appreciate trying to build something up here on my own. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. Catch you in the next one.